I am in utter kind of shock right now. Just how synchronized Thelema is with what I've been seeing and speaking about lately. And yes, it's something I have studied before, but not for a long time, and it is something the YouTube channel Theology Ed talked about as well. However, I did not know that the aeon Osiris actually does precede the aeon of Horus, according to Aleister Crowley himself. So, and before that, it was the aeon of Isis. I didn't realize it was not in that synchronized order. But before I get into that, I'm extremely reluctant to talk about a music video. I'm going to show just a few frames. I shared this before. I just wanted to show you real quickly how there is a very clear representation of a celestial and terrestrial birthing. And it starts off with Isis holding the baby Osiris right here. And this is a video by Rammstein called Zeit. And I'm gonna be very careful with moving these frames here, but look at this face. Kind of looks like a reptoid, doesn't it? Very weird face. But that's not the main thing I wanted to show. Okay, here are all these women giving birth. And you have this mushroom cloud structure. And why, to me, this is celestial and terrestrial, because it's as above, so below. So you're having what's above exploding just as something below. So they're mirroring each other. So these births are mirroring each other, as above, so below, which is exactly how I anticipate it to occur. That is the only event that will be simultaneous in the iPad Go 2 saga, and that is the explosion of the sun with a crack in the earth. And this also kind of looks like a nuclear mushroom cloud as well. And this video does show the birth, death, and rebirth of Horus. It's not necessarily in chronological order, but it is something to take note of and take a look at. I just can't remember exactly where there it is right there, where he is right there, symbolizing the death, and then he'll be reborn again in this scene. So, very weird, creepy video. The song itself, the lyrics are about death and birth, so it's fitting. But I think there's more to it. Just make sure that's okay. Let's read about this. In the religion of Thelema, it is believed that the history of humanity can be divided into a series of aeons, each of which was accompanied by its own form of magical and religious expression. The first one, the aeon of Isis, which Thelemites believed occurred during prehistory, and which saw mankind worshipping a great goddess, symbolized by the ancient Egyptian deity Isis. Thelemite beliefs, this was followed by the aeon of Osiris, a period that took place in classical and medieval centuries when humanity worshipped a singular male god, symbolized by the Egyptian god Osiris, and was therefore dominated by patriarchal values. Okay, you see how the vision I spoke of yesterday was a matriarchy in that garden, and it was taken over by the Green Goblin. Basically, the third aeon is the aeon of Horus, controlled by the child god, symbolized by Horus. Thelemites believe humanity shall enter a time of self-realization and self-actualization, Within the Thelemite religion, each of these aeons is believed to be characterized by their own magical formula, the use of which is very important in understanding Thelemic magic. Okay, the first aeon, Isis, was maternal, where the female aspect of the godhead was revered due to a mostly matriarchal society, and the idea of Mother Earth nourished, clothed, and housed man, closed in the womb of Matrix. It was characterized by pagan worship of the mother and nature. In the Equinox of the Gods, Crowley described this period as simple, quiet, easy, and pleasant. The material ignores the spiritual. Interesting. Remarked was the age of the great goddess. It had originated in prehistory, reaching its zenith in 2400 BC. Interesting. Okay. Aeon of Osiris, the classical and the medieval Aeon of Osiris, is considered to be dominated by the paternal principle and formula of the dying god. The Aeon was characterized by that of self-sacrifice and submission to the Father God, while man spoke of his father and mother. Crowley said of his Aeon in his heart of the Master, formula of Osiris, whose word is IAO, so that men worshipped man, thinking him subject to death, and his victory dependent upon resurrection, even so conceived they of the Son, and slain and reborn with every day and every year. Crowley also says that the Aeon of Osiris and Equinox of the Gods. The second Aeon is of suffering and death. The spiritual strives to ignore the material. Christianity and all cognate religions worship death, glorify suffering, deify corpses. Okay, now we get to the big one right now. The one's coming up. The modern Aeon of Horus is portrayed as a time of self-realization, as well as a growing interest in all things spiritual, and is considered to be dominated by the principle of the child. The word of the law is thelema, will, which is complemented by agape, love, and it is the formula abracadabra, what? Individually and finding the individual's true will are the dominant aspects. Its formula is that of growth in consciousness and love towards self-realization. Concerning the Aeon of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, who dieth not nor is reborn, but goeth radiant ever upon his way, even so goeth the sun. For as it is now known that night is but the shadow of earth, so death is but the shadow of the body, that veileth his light from its bearer. Okay. Okay. Basically, this is just about different authors now, things like that. Okay, there's your very basic, oversimplified explanations, and here's my thought. Okay, to me, what differentiates between me and Mr. Crowley here, well, first of all, I do not practice the things he practiced, and second of all, I disagree that these are simply representations or simply basically collective thought patterns. That is a part of it. That is definitely a part of it where there's a collective change in consciousness. Yes. To me, ladies and gentlemen, this is literal stuff. As you've heard me speaking about, a literal war in this dimension. Of course, it's not necessarily all happening here, but it is playing out here as well. So I think there's a literal Osiris who actually exists and lives right now in the fallen garden, and there will be a literal Horus who literally comes, and that's the difference between those two aeons. Is that in probably Osiris never actually came to Earth or presented himself before man. What distincts our upcoming quote unquote new age is that I literally think he will physically be here present among the people, and subsequently changing. I don't know if it's gonna be all this happy lovey-dovey stuff. I there might be pockets of that around the world where the true principles of that may be playing out, but as a whole, um, uh, his purpose isn't to bring love and peace. Remember, they're trying to restore that garden. So ultimately speaking, our versions of things are completely different. But one thing we see eye to eye is that Osiris preceded Horus. And I read that, I'm like, what? So this is actually something someone wrote about before, which I was just shocked. I'm like, I heard of it before, but I didn't know it preceded right before, like as I'm speaking of. So that clarifies to me even more that the green lizard in Pet Go 2 is in fact Osiris running away from his son Horus. But ultimately speaking, it's uh, this realm is in deep trouble, and I don't. It might be beyond repair, and this baby child king is just gonna be here to oversee its demise. I mean, this lovey-dovey, happy abracadabra, new age mumbo is just seems a little bit too lovey-dovey and happy to me. I'm sorry for being such a pessimist, but these are just the things that I've been seeing in these visions, so to speak. For whatever reason, they're coming to me. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. Okay. If he doesn't come in 2024, I don't care. I'm just letting you know right now. It's whatever. I uh, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm going through some weird phase. So, and speaking of that, any questions tomorrow night at 8, be there. I'll be there to answer. And things I'm sure you would have questions like how does throwing crystals in the nebula, creating a black hole somewhere in deep space, have anything to do with us here? I mean, that would be a very relevant question. Why did the people of the garden who escaped Osiris, why did they place themselves in suspended animation? Um, all sorts of questions that might be very relevant for tomorrow, and including the Satan loop too. I want to talk about that and the pyramids. So see you tomorrow.